Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Flow. I'm Kevin Lowers.
I'm BK.
And we're just here another week, another day, and another conversation, man. How you been?
Things are pretty good, man. It's cool. I think they've been well. It's always the same question we ask every day. Hey, man, how you doing? I'm like, well, about the same as I was yesterday, so I think pretty good.
You think pretty good? You don't think it gets better every day? Or does it get worse because you get old?
Depends, man. It depends. Yeah, exactly. I'm like hanging on to, I'm like, how much time do I have left? But yeah, I think pretty good. Pretty good. It's, with the cold air and the lack of ability to get outside, I guess the only thing I'm left to is contemplation. There's nothing else to fucking do.
Yeah, I've been trying to even go outside in this cold weather and just like embrace it. You know, because I like being outside, but it does suck, man. Even taking my dog for a walk, you can tell after we go like one block, he's like, fuck this.
Yeah, I don't know if Wim Hof is like the greatest warrior of all time or if he's just completely out of his mind.
Probably a little bit of both.
I think
he's definitely a little bit out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like to sit in an ice bath for over an hour, you're a crazy person. Have you ever taken an ice bath?
Yeah, for like 11 tenths of a second.
I used to do them all the time for 15 minutes because that's like the traditional protocol. And the first 7 minutes sitting in ice, and I mean, I'm only submerged up to like a little past my belly button. You know, I'm not even all the way under. And it is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do, to stay in there. At
your age, that's kind of a soft skin area right around the navel.
What is that about, like, what is that, though, about getting into water? Like, you walk in, right, and your feet and your legs are fine. Yeah. And then right when you get past the torso, it's hell.
You go into the ocean, and you see the wave coming. You know the elevation's coming, so I jump.
Yeah.
So, like, my legs feel great, but it barely touched my...
Just got to embrace the pain and just jump in, man. Cold
right.
showers. I heard you've been dabbling with the cold shower.
Well, it's funny, in here at the Inflow Wellness Academy, our showers are funny because they were set up on a timer to where they would turn the hot water off on the weekends, to save money. They turn the heat off and everything like that. And since the management's taken over this building, they can't figure out how to turn it back on. So I'm up here on Sunday, and I had a nice little infrared sauna. I had a great workout, and then I got to get in the shower. And so I turn it on the warm or whatever, and I'm standing there, and it's not getting warm, and it's not getting warm. And it doesn't get warm, and I'm like, what do I do? So yeah, I had to take a cold shower on Sunday, and so I want to say it was exhilarating, but I can honestly tell you it's because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, there's something about it, man. I've been preaching it for a long time. There's just something about it. There's obviously a lot of research in cold therapy, but I don't even need it. I've just been doing it for years now, and it just makes me feel incredible. I don't even need anybody to cite a study. I just know what works for me, and it's worked very well for me.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that because it's like, it's like you create these disciplines. Like I hear you saying, I've been doing this cold shower for a while. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it. It's kind of like meditation. Well, after you sit there in the lotus position for 5 minutes and the hand of God doesn't come out of the clouds, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? So it's like, yeah, does everything always have to add up? Like, does it have to like be the portal to the next, or can it just be a discipline?
And I think the adding up is something that you can't plan for. You just got to keep doing it. And then maybe like now, like 2.5 years into literally every morning, I finish with a cold shower. It's just become like the norm for me. And I can like look back and say this has been a very beneficial aspect of my life, because it's when winter rolls around. Ever since I started, I kid you not, I used to hate winter all through high school, freshman year of college, just first couple of years after I moved into my first apartment, hated it, dreaded it, just like miserable, just get in the car like fuck, like just couldn't stand it. Ever since I started taking those cold showers, cold just does not bother me. And obviously, like if you do want to cite some research, you develop more brown fat, and your ability to be resilient within the cold gets easier. So it's no different than 60 degrees at the beginning of winter coming out of an 80-degree summer versus 60 degrees at the end of a negative 2-degree winter.
Right. One you're on the equator, and the other is absolutely cold.
It sums up your adaptation period. So when you continuously, even through summer, expose yourself to that cold, you don't lose that brown fat, and then you're more resilient when that next winter rolls around. And I try to explain this to people that suffer from always being cold. I'm so always cold. I'm like, well, you don't do anything to not be cold, except bundle up in blankets and talk about how cold you are. Like, it's just so exhausting.
It's just I think it's anything, man. It's anything. I mean, it's like, because I could probably cite a study on why warm showers are great first thing in the morning. I could probably find something there. So today's that day. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to take a cold shower, and then I'm like. But it's also really good to have a warm shower, and so that's what I'm going to do today. Is it the idea of just breaking a habit? Is it just simple change? Is it just simple resistance to anything that's different from what I'm comfortable doing? I mean, I've taken hot showers that are uncomfortable, like it's burning you. Like I want to get out. I'm hot. I'm sweating. So I don't know what I resist more: the cold water or the change in formula.
That's a good point. And I mean, there's a little bit of comfort versus discomfort there, right? Warm shower is like thought of as this like relaxing, comfortable thing. Cold shower is thought of this like frigid, miserable, crazy person recovery aid, But I think it's Paul Chek who talks a lot about this. Your ability to expose yourself to cold without like freaking out, as building a resilient nervous system. And it's just an important thing to me. I just think it's an important thing to be able to have control and to understand that, switching that knob from hot to cold really isn't that hard of a decision. In the moment, it seems like it is. Like, don't get me wrong, every morning, I've been doing this for over 2 years, every morning, I have an inner dialogue where I'm like, are you going to do it? I always do it
Even
now.
though you've been doing it.
I always do it, but there's never a day where I'm not just like, all right, cool. I don't just like blindly turn it to cold, like without thought. I'm always like, this feels so good. Like, am I really at 5 a.m. gonna turn in my shower in this new house I bought? I mean, it's like Arctic level. It's so cold. Like my last shower in my apartment I was living in, I could sit in that cold as it went for a minute, and it was it was cold and it kind of sucked, but it was nothing like my shower that I have now. This one, if you're in there for more than 30 seconds, I'm pretty sure I'm starting to develop icicles on my head. I think it's
Siberia.
I think it's causing more harm than good at that point. But just like that confidence in knowing you can control, and I think this can segue us into what we kind of wanted to get at today, which is change, which is, again, I'm writing a cool blog article on the idea of order versus chaos, and what I'm trying to articulate is that order is the things you can control, right? And I can control turning that knob and going from hot to cold, and it's just all it is a little bit of discomfort, but I can control it, so I do it as a discipline, like you said earlier. And things like cleaning the house, like keeping your house clean, that's something in your control. It's a discipline. Exercise, you can control that. What you put in your mouth, you can control that. What you can't control is the market, running a business, the weather, other people's decisions, your relationship. A lot of it's out of your control. And just in my own head, how I rationalize it is that if you can't take care of the things that are in your control, how are you going to be prepared when you get hit with things that are completely out of your control? Because you didn't create those disciplines yet. So that laziness and undisciplined nature is going to just manifest into anxiety, depression when you get hit with these things. And you see that in people that get mad at snow, or they get mad because their friend changed. Of course they did. There's nothing in this world doesn't change. There's nothing that remains stagnant. Everything shapeshifts consistently on a second-to-second basis. So why are you upset that your friend changed? He's not an 18-year-old kid anymore. He's 25. He's got a job and responsibility.
Well, isn't it that they say that that's the delusion, the delusion of, again, the things that typically create chaos in our lives are actually the things that are most normal, right? Like you said, everything in nature changes. Everything transcends its former shape and its former, everything that it was. It's something different now, and so it's more delusional when you wonder, oh my gosh, we're supposed to get that much snow tonight, and then you can come back with saying it's Michigan and it's February. Like, it's delusional to think that this couldn't happen. It's delusional to think that we were going to get an early spring because of the groundhog. It's weird. So it's like
that's the funniest shit.
I know, man. That is great, and they party, dude. I turned on like the news or whatever. What is that city called?
What city?
Where the groundhog, yeah.
I don't even know.
It was in the Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. I forget the name of the town, but it's like 2 a.m. and they got bands playing and everything like that, and they just can't wait to see.
Because he saw a shadow or something? Or
They're waiting
to
see if he's gonna. So
I never understood that. I was always because it's one of those things when you're younger and you're a kid, you don't see you think it's like reality. You think like if this chipmunk actually sees a shadow, winter is
you have a captive audience. Like, oh shit, we can go on. We're going to be able to go to Florida a month early this year because the groundhog saw a shadow. I'm like, well, at a certain time of day, wouldn't he always?
Yeah, right. I mean, and he's a groundhog,
right?
He's not a intelligent being.
Yeah, we have Doppler 47,000 now that still can't predict the weather properly, but a groundhog can.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's ask this guy. I'm going to ask the coons in my backyard. Like, hey, what do you guys think about winter?
We are such a strange species.
I think that's what I think that's what has been on my brain a lot, because it's like anything change always starts with freaking panic. This week I've been struggling on my metaphysical side of life. Physically, whatever, I'm fine. I'm ripped. It's good. But on the metaphysical side, it's like I've almost created an understanding that at my age, I'm probably not going to put on 40 pounds of lean mass. I'm probably not necessarily going to set some world record on lifting or whatever. Not that I have any interest in either of those. But so it's like I have practicality. I'm very practical with, what I might consider like a lack of development at a certain age, because, this obviously is a body that's designed to rot and just fall apart, So sometimes I tell our clients, at a certain point, homeostasis is advancing our potential. Like, not declining is kind of an advancement. I don't think we're in neutral if we didn't get worse today. Sometimes I think that that's actually a plus.
You're fighting time,
right?
Every
Exactly.
day.
Right. So if I can continue to jump up on that box and lift my body weight a certain way, if I'm in my 60s, like, that starts to become really, really good. Like, that starts to become like, they might put me on the news for that. So, but I go into the metaphysical side, and I'll sit down and I'll get my music ready, and I'll have this nice little picture of nature, and it's like squirrel, and so I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. So I feel like I got this meditative block, and so it's almost like I may have to change like my style. And I'm like, well, I used to sit like this before, and I used to have these cool visions. Like, where's the visions? What's wrong? And I'm like, well, maybe I need a shift in modalities. Maybe I need to go back to my deprivation tanks. Maybe I need to do some neural hacking. Maybe I need to try a different type of music. And so, but it's like I'm resistant. I know this was coming. I knew that the blockage is relevant in every aspect of life, physical, mental, whatever. You're always going to come up to a wall of sorts. But yet I get to that point. I know it. I preach it. I talk about it. We're doing podcasts on it. But yet I still am like, I don't want to. Like, why can't things be the way they were?
Yeah, there's always that nostalgia for the way things once were.
The way things were.
I can relate to that on being 23 and having the kid at 19. And there's a constant like man, back when there was just no worries. Like when I was in college or even like high school, you You just have no worries. And people always say, like, enjoy it. You know, you're going to grow up fast.
And that's great advice.
Yeah.
And we don't take it.
It's so good, man. It's the greatest advice ever. Because I was explaining to a buddy the other day, I was like, time is not linear. Like, your aging process is not linear. And how I usually reshape it is using fractions. You know, like my 4-year-old, that's like this year is 1/4 of his life. That's 25% of his life. So his days are probably so long. His weeks are probably decades, you know. But when you're 45, that's 1/45 of your life. That's like 3% of your life.
15
your days
years
go
of
boom.
blinked, dude.
And so it becomes that much more important to obviously optimize your time and awareness in it. But that nostalgia is just it's a funny one because you think that you want to go back, but there's nothing there. There's nothing there for you anymore. That was just a time, and you transcended it. I can't do nothing all day and play video games all day anymore. And even if I could, I don't know that it would fill it'd fill a void. I don't think I would be happy. Again, I don't know. Maybe I could play NHL for 8 hours and have a pretty good life.
Try it.
You know, but it's an interesting one. But to your point, just being able to have the awareness, right? Being able to take off like the physical. So you said you're good physically, right? You take care of yourself. How many people can even say that? How many people even get to go to the metaphysical and think about the metaphysical? Because they're trapped in a physically broken body. They can't even manifest or surpass that to get to the mind.
Yeah, they're consumed
they're
by
broken down. They're like every time they sit down to meditate, their hip hurts and their back aches and like they have high blood pressure. Their heart rate's always up.
They probably get anxiety with everything they're going to eat.
100%.
If it's clean, they have anxiety that it ain't going to taste good, and if it's bad, they're like, I shouldn't be doing that. Like I like psychoanalysis, but when you break it all the way down to that, like that's to me, that's an emotional prison, man. That's like solitary confinement in your mind. It's like if that's all I can think about, if my 4 walls and a ceiling is built around, you know, just this meal, like I don't know, man. I feel like I'm losing. I feel like I'm not winning.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Stoics. You know, just going back to like food is just food. Just eat it and try to do a good job of it and stop thinking about it. You know, I wish there was some sort of pill that just had all your nutrients and calories. You just take it and you don't worry about it for the rest of the day. Because food is time consuming. If you want to be healthy, you can't just eat out all the time. Even if you can find pretty good restaurants, it's just the timing. You don't really know what you're getting a lot of times, especially in Michigan. Maybe if you're in California, you can do a pretty good job of that. If you want to pay $37 for a salad, but it's a time consuming act. So I guess I get it in that regard why people struggle with it. You know, because it takes an army, it seems, to eat healthy sometimes. But that's why you have to simplify it, and that's what I try to articulate. You know, I'm not a big advocate of like, you know, you got to have grass-fed beef. You have to eat this, and that at this time. No, I'm just like just avoid the stuff you know is terrible for you, and stop worrying about it. Mm-hmm. You know, and then see what happens. And if you lose, 10 pounds, and now you're a solid, 5'11", 180. I'm sure you could lose maybe 10 more pounds, but you're pretty good. You probably focus on other stuff now.
Yeah, body mind. It's
and they're always changing.
Yeah, because I was going to say they don't always parallel.
No.
Sometimes it's non-duality, and sometimes it's very much duality, like two different worlds that I'm living in. So it's I guess I'm probably thankful that I don't get like lost in like a weak funk. I don't get like into the middle of the month and say, oh man, I need to snap out of this. Like psychoanalysis, we talked about it many times. It's difficult, but it can also be very reassuring. I can actually say to myself, whoa, Ben, these are very depressive thoughts. Like, it's not that bad. It's like, so I have the tools now to like identify and snap out of it. So on my own, I have my own, 5 bullet points on how to not be depressed and how to not be overconsumed with this, that, and the other. I've tried to – I think I've done a pretty good job of just more or less eliminate or transcend is better, guilt and anxiety, things of that nature. Basically I think what I've done with those is appreciate better the timelessness of everything. There's no wall for what was the beginning, and there is no – it's like the Truman Show. You seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like there's no end of the set. Like my boat's not going to bump up against that set, and there's a whole, so it's, I think, that goes back to perspective on, again, I'm thankful that I'm in the moment. And even if it's a moment where I don't feel like myself, at least I'm acknowledging the lack of feeling like myself in the moment, and then, I don't know, what else would I have been thinking about? What else would I have been doing? But it's still painful, man. It's still painful. The idea of change, we have, in our business, we're constantly looking to, I had talked to a lady that, I'm always looking to add a piece, whatever. She's an occupational therapist, and I think she's really, interested in like what we do. And I think she sees our creativity, and I think she sees almost like the doing your own thing. I mean,
autonomy, freedom.
Yeah, freedom.
That's what we all fucking want, man.
Yeah, we want freedom, but we're not afraid to work. Like my portrait of freedom never did include some form of labor.
Yeah, what else are we here to do?
Right.
Yeah, and again, to your point, the suffering it's inevitable. That's what we're seeing today with the downfall and the sensitivity of our society, is that people are getting, like, people that are suffering are identifying as though they're oppressed, and then they're fighting out against it instead of just bearing the weight like people have been doing for eons. Like it's there's no greater pastime of humans than just the ability to put the weight of the suffering on your back and persevere. I mean, that's a true person. That's a true human. That's a human quality and trait that everybody should acquire. Instead of, this happened to me today, and this self-loathing that happens, this self-deprecating that happens nowadays that you just didn't see back in the day as much. And now, obviously, with the internet and the information, the exposure to information, people can band together in unity and complain together and have more power within it. But at the end of the day, at least for me, you just have to sit there and have an honest conversation and say, no matter what hand you're dealt, obviously you can get a 7-2 and you can get 2 aces, but both have their pros and cons. You see the rich kid that can't figure the world out because he's been, hand-fed his whole life, and you see, the kid who grows up in the inner cities who can't get out, and he's involved in violence and gangs. So there's 2 sides of the story always, but suffering is a universal trait, whether it's self-inflicted or it's external. And you have to develop that discipline to persevere. And within that comes like the bigger stuff where you start to say, well, if I'm going to suffer, and suffering means like labor, right? I'm going to labor in a way that gives me autonomy and freedom. I'm going to labor the way I want to labor. So obviously you could go beyond, like, the amount of entrepreneurs that fail because they can't work hard. It's sexy, man. I mean, I always talk about this industry. It's beautiful from the outside. People think that we're just like these, jacked trainers that just like tell people what to do on the floor, but it's so much more than that, man. I mean, like the never-ending hours, the constant on the clock, the constant thought of how are we going to make that next dollar, the constant fear of the fact that it's a luxury service and that if someone loses their job, they're going to pay their bills before they pay their trainer.
Absolutely.
Which one's going first?
It's recreational.
Yeah.
Well, and that's unfortunate as well that, I hope at this point right now I would rather downscale my living style, my car style, my food style, and keep the gym.
Absolutely. And that's awareness.
But we don't know our clients who do that.
No, we don't. And it's fascinating. And the idea of this podcast was to kind of talk about change. And obviously it's a global, very intricate word to use and to extrapolate. But I think finding like solitude in the things that you have and can control, and then like understanding that nothing good can happen from staying here. You have to venture at some point. And again, I think you're 45, right? 44?
Going to be 45.
Going to be 45.
Yeah.
So I would imagine people that just have never changed. Like they just stick to the same thing.
They're called my old friends.
Yeah, it's interesting. And even at 23, I can see, and it's a lot of people, you can't really expect them to be figuring things out quite this early, I suppose. I think you should, because the information's there. When you were younger, the information wasn't. When you were in your 20s, the information wasn't like it is now. I mean, I can learn anything at any given moment. There's no reason for me to be suffering the way that I would have 40 years ago, because I can learn and figure it out, and I can say, okay, all these successful people identify with the fact that you need to be able to embrace change, and you need to go and do it with an open mind, and you need to control the things you can control. It's just very simple concepts. but they're so hard to execute on.
I know, man.
They're so hard to execute on. And whatever it is, Stephen Pressfield calls it resistance. Whatever it is, that thing that keeps you from doing what you know you should do, man, is it evil. But the more tools you can have in your repertoire to fight it, the more understanding and the reasoning you can put in your own mind. When that procrastination comes up, if you've read, say, War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, you can consciously go, oh, this is the resistance. Like, this is when I have to push. This is when I need to, snort some peppermint oil and get back to work, and, instead of just going and taking a nap, because that's the easy thing. That's the warm shower. The nap's the warm shower. Right when you want to get out in your nice warm shower, turn it to cold.
I think about that. I think about every person that's in a position. I look at myself now. I think I identify myself with my age. It's almost like to qualify what I'm about to say. Look, young people, I'm in my 40s, so I'm about to give you a life lesson, and I want everybody to take a fucking knee and listen.
You want to know the best part? I usually start with, I don't really know anything because I'm 23, but
let me tell you something.
Let me try to tell you something.
See if it makes sense. I think I've accepted the role, and I didn't get a letter in the mail or anything. I have accepted the role of mentor whenever the opportunity presents itself. I was at a party for the Super Bowl, just at a little house gathering or whatever, and I overheard a mom and her daughter talking about some trouble that she was having in school or whatever, and it was like kind of like a bullying thing a little bit. And the mom was more or less saying, I've just told her if she keeps doing that again, you just got to turn right around. You just got to sock her right in the nose and everything like that. But so I just was kind of listening a little bit. So I kind of spun my chair around and I said, do you guys mind if I interject at all? Can I say something? Or I just want to make sure it's yeah. What is it? So I just started asking some questions or whatever. But all of a sudden, by me just kind of breaking it down and asking a few questions and identifying the fact that, well, if you're being bullied, chances are the bully has been bullied. It's at your age, it's learned behavior. And when you kind of gave the young lady, and even the mother in this case, something to think about, another way of looking at the situation. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have to sock somebody in the nose every once in a while, right? But it was just like, I just was offering a suggestion on another way of looking at it. All of a sudden, the room got kind of quiet and kind of had a little bit more of a captive audience. And then it shifted how people were approaching. And they're like, yeah, maybe we can try to talk to her, and maybe we can just explain to her, like, your bullying hurts my feelings and things like that. So anyways, I just mentioned that is because I looked at it as a complete opportunity. And the reason I mentioned it is I get upset at adults that are in positions where they have a captive audience. I guess I use adults in youth, but anybody. Think of a teacher. Think of a counselor. Think of a trainer. Think of mothers and fathers. Are you kidding me? It's like, don't you understand that because you had a child, I no longer give a rat's butt about whether or not you've been able to do the things in your life you want to do. Like, you are now here. You work for this child. You work for him or her. You now have a responsibility to make her as productive, or him as productive a human as within your control. And when it's out of control, then you need to learn. And you need to, I like if you just figure it out on your own. Really? With what tools? What tools was I supposed to figure it out on my own? The only thing I know how to do is like pick my nose and I'm 10. You know what I mean? It's like, so I just wished, Martin Luther King said greatness is a choice. Okay, so to choose greatness is that path least resisted. It's that chaos we've talked about. Like, you're dipping your toe in that cold, icy water, to accept the challenge of mentoring whenever possible. And so you think of the real skills that people need. It's like, yeah, I think we need math and science and everything like that in school, but we need like social situational training, like how to deal with a bully, how to deal with a rumor, how to deal with body changes and mind changes. Like, why aren't we preparing them for the things that are actually going to put them on Xanax, Zoloft, Paxils, and put them in the chair of the therapist? I'm just wondering what we're breeding. What are coaches actually breeding? I mean, that's great. The guy understands the football playbook like the back of his hand. Does he clean his room? Is he respectful to his parents? Does he show up 15 minutes early for practice with food in his belly and hydrated? I don't know. It's inviting chaos into your life. It's inviting difficult things into your life. It's accepting the fact that things will never be or should not ever be the way they were. I mean, it's a very, I don't know. Again, I think it's the deconstruction of assuming everything should be ordinary, cyclical, and the same as it was yesterday. That's what's fucked up. If we could just shift our minds to say, if today looks like just like it did yesterday, something's wrong.
Well, and I mean, you could even extrapolate that idea back hundreds of thousands of years ago, because we're living through this time right now. And I don't think people are even observant of it, but we're living through the most influential time that the human civilization has ever seen.
And tomorrow will be that again.
Yeah, and we're living through the fastest growth ever, the most exponential change, and it'll probably continue to grow exponentially. And people, especially when we refer to people, like the older individuals that aren't used to this, or used to this simple life, it's hard to embrace. It's hard to shapeshift and say, this is not the world anymore. You got to think, like, for millions of years, humans just did the same shit, man. They woke up, they hunted, they gathered, they partied, they gossiped. That's all they did. And if anything shapeshift or changed, it was like a bad thing. So there very well could be a DNA descriptive nature to us as humans to be fearful of it. But that's where the conscious observer comes in. That's where you take out the monkey brain and you say, if I'm a human living in 2018, I need to cultivate the ability to shapeshift. I need to understand that this isn't, a million years ago. That every day there's opportunity for big change. And I'm going to be riding the wave, willing or unwilling. Like, it's going to happen no matter what. And or you don't, and you remain stagnant, and then you start to watch as people around you don't, and they succeed, and then you become resentful. And resentment is the worst thing that can ever happen to a human.
It rots you.
It rots you from the inside out. It destroys your ability to communicate. It destroys your ability to have faith in the people around you that you love, all due generally to your inability to speak up and accept the fact that you're changing, people are changing, the situation's changing, the environment's changing. So it's and again, I've dealt with it. I'm in a relation. I was in a relationship at 18 years old. I moved in with a female at 18, 19 years old, and I loved her, but like I never lived with her, and she never lived with me. And there's a lot of shitty shit that I do. Like I hawk loogies when I brush my teeth. Drives her crazy. She doesn't clean very much. Can often drive me crazy. But then over time you learn. You learn to communicate, and you say, hey, like, could you just clean a little bit more? Hey, can you stop hawking loogies in the sink? It's kind of gross. And you say, like, yeah, absolutely, honey. And then you realize that some things are non-negotiable and some things aren't going to change. And you either choose to just blindly become resentful at the fact that she never cleans, or you just go, it's not that big of a deal. She does all this, and that.
Right.
It's no problem.
What are we focused on?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the idea of focusing on what you don't have versus what you do have.
That's the element of change that I think is like, again, it's like life to me. It should just be sticky notes everywhere. Like every epiphany that I have today, I should do a quick sticky note, put it somewhere in my house. So when I wake up tomorrow, if I'm lucky enough to wake up tomorrow, it's not promised, that I'll go, oh yeah, don't be a dick.
Yeah, right.
Like you were a jerk yesterday, do better. It's like, but life is a sticky note. And that's what I love about that change. It's like we should, again, be prepared for something tomorrow to be slightly different than today, and then just deal well with it. We focus on, they say, I was trying to get my thought together. They say that it's impossible to be happy today because we long for yesterday. And remember, I call our past a highlight reel, because I can think of a couple of little moments, like a picnic here, a hug here, and a family day here, and then I roll it all together and say, man, it was great growing up. Everything was awesome. I forget about the winter we didn't have heat, that my dad worked in another state. I forget about the arguments that I used to listen to my parents. I mean, it was pretty brutal, the way they would talk to each other and stuff. And I look back now, and I all they needed was a hug. But it's like I just don't know why the idea of preparing better for change rather than the ordinary. To finish that thought, another reason why we can't be happy today is because we also fantasize about tomorrow. We have this amazing ability to fantasize about what it's going to be like. Okay, so we're happy in the future. We can create a highlight reel from the past, and the moment just sucks. The moment's ordinary. The moment's bland. But then when you tell me to change, I'm like, hell no. No, I'm not changing anything. I don't know. It's like I just don't think we're getting this generation's changing. What are we, the 1%ers of the 1%? But it's forcing it. Things are moving so quickly that it's forcing people to change. I mean, think about our parents. Like my mom and dad were both born in 1950. Think about the way that the world has changed in well, how many years was that? Damn, that was 68 years. They didn't. I mean, my mom talked about how they shared a pair of shoes.
Yeah, my mom was born in 59, my dad 57, so.
Yeah. They were poor, they shared shoes. And then now look at where we're at. It's like so.
Well, and adaptability falls in. It's what you know. And it's easy to get good at what you know, and it's hard to get good at what you don't know. But, what you know is probably not all there is. So you have to be willing to go and adventure into things that you don't know, because you don't know that it's not going to be better than what you have today. And I mean, that's what I live on. That's like what I've premised my whole life on. It never ends. There's always a way to make it better. And we get the chance to, and Jordan Peterson talks about how people say life's a game. Life's an assortment of a lot of different games, and you can't be good at all of them. And you have to accept that. You can't be an Elon Musk running $3 billion companies and be a great dad who's at every event that his kids are at and is a great spouse who's at home on time for dinner every night. You just can't have the cake and eat it too.
What is it? You say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a bit of that, and there's a lot of value in back to Jordan Peterson. He talks about how we identify in a sense of tribalism with ideology, and that the ideology is just a way to escape the individual, and that the individual is what you really need to cultivate. You need to cultivate your individual self, your individual goals. Like, what kind of person do you want to be? Not what kind of person is everyone else around you. Who do you want to be? And as you become an adult, you get that opportunity to do that, and a lot of people don't, because it's fear. There's a lot of change involved. You might have to have this conversation where you go, man, I was indoctrinated into this ideology because my parents did it, and I've been living it, and it just, my life sucks. Maybe this isn't the best thing, and this is the thing you've known forever. And trying to, it's like taking a piece of you out. It's like when a relationship ends, right? That's why people hang on and cling, because they feel like they're losing a part of themselves. But, instead of looking at it as, I just spent 10 years with this person, and 7 of them were phenomenal. I learned so much. I loved them. They were amazing. But the last 3 years, it's obvious that we've changed and we're going separate ways.
It's always troubled me about like divorce and stuff like that.
Ugh,
I'm like,
shit freaks me out.
Yeah, like people could have a couple of kids together, be together for 25 years, and then just absolutely hate each other.
Resentment.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, so you're telling me that you were a complete idiot for the last, you were in it for 25 years, and you vehemently can't stand even to look at this person. That to me is...
Yeah, and even more so, to build on that, in that situation, again, our inability to rationalize what's important, right? You get hurt, right? Like, let's hypothetically, someone cheats on somebody and the other person's hurt and broken, and then they despise and hate that person that cheated on them, and they are both being incredibly selfish, and they forget that they have 4 kids, and one of the kids is 2, one of the kids is 4, one of the kids is 7, one of the kids is 10. None of them are developed. Your decisions in those moments are going to either make those kids great or fuck them up for the rest of your life. And when I see an adult that breaks it off with the father or the mother of their kids, and then they can't co-parent, I automatically put you in a category of a person that is stupid, a person that I could never trust, I could never hang out with, I could never be a part of or have them be a part of my circle. Like, you're missing, to your point, you took on this responsibility. Have you ever met somebody that can co-parent really well?
Oh, yeah.
It's the most amazing thing ever. It's like, put your shit aside, because these kids are underdeveloped, and they're conscious, and they're paying attention. and like you're lashing out. Like, and Caitlin will watch that Teen Mom show, and it's just disgusting. It's disgusting that they televise these stupid humans. Like, it's just so crazy to me.
I don't get that.
Like, even on television, you know, the mom's talking horrible about the husband on like to the cameras with the kid in the back seat. Kid's 4 or 5. Like, my kid's 4. He picks up on fucking everything.
Everything. Like,
dude,
you just said, he's 25% older. This year.
It's crazy, man. And I just think, like, you are just so caught up in the stupidest shit, man. Like, you haven't transcended the stupid nature of being a human. You know, there's a lot of suffering. Embrace it. Be a part of it. You know, why did he cheat on you? Let's extrapolate that. You know, are you just being ignorant? Did you not see it coming? Like, really? Or has your love life been dead for 10 years and you guys don't even talk anymore and you don't communicate, and then he cheated on you and you're angry about that? Like, what did you expect?
He may have saved you.
Yeah, seriously. That's usually how it goes. It's like, well, you know, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you have someone who actually loves you, and you're happy, and you go, oh, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. But people can't use the foresight to be okay in that moment. And I talk about this. You know, I talk to Caitlin about this with death. You know, I'm not a big fan of funerals. I don't like them. I don't like what they entail for the most part of all this grieving. You know, even someone that's youthful and they die, you know, like when you die, like the person that dies doesn't suffer, you know, unless they were dragged on with our modern medicine and have been in pain for the last 4 years, just being kept alive by, you know, medicine and machine. Then I guess that's suffering. But when they go, the only people that suffer are the people that are left behind.
And I think the only thing that suffers again is the suffering's from a lack of perspective. A, did you not know this was going to happen? He was 80.
Yeah. Okay.
He wasn't going to be the oldest human ever to live. Okay. He smoked and drank his whole life, which is great. And again, it's like, why aren't we thankful that he or she doesn't suffer anymore, and he or she no longer has to come up with that answer and doesn't have to pay that tax bill anymore. It's like, I love when I've read about different societies and how it's a celebration. It's a celebration of transcendence. And I've asked that we're one of the only cultures that, like, even with religion being as prominent as it is in our nation, most people would identify with some form of a religion, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a very high percentage.
70% Catholicism, like right there.
Yeah, like but yet there's still, death still devastates. You still got people scratching and clawing for one more breath. Hey, let's do an MRI on Bob today. He said his hip's hurting. I'm like, he's 90. Like, his hip's supposed to hurt.
He doesn't have a hip anymore.
Right,
it's
like
dust.
There is no hip.
Yeah, you slit those wrists and it's dust coming out.
Right, it's just this bit, even in our medicine, just this, at what point does somebody come in, again, at a certain, you know, what is that age? I've asked that fucking question so many times. I'm like, what is the age when you're allowed to say, oh, okay, that's a good life? Yeah. What's the number? Like, is there a number that satiates whether or not somebody lived a good life? Like, what's the number? Because, you know, I think about, like, the children's hospital. What do you always see when you go into the children's hospital? Now, I don't want to be insensitive about this at all, but children are always smiling and laughing. It's almost like even when they're sick, they're so young, they don't have anything else to compare it to, right? So they're just kind of taking it on the chin, you know, and they're chill, and they're children, and they can still be happy even when we see nothing but suffering, you know. And then somebody gets to 70 and they die, and it's like, why, God, why? You know, I don't know. I'm like what is, like, it's like something major has been lost in how we raise each other. It's like my dad used to never be honest with me about anything. Hey, Dad, did you ever drink beer? No, that's for losers. You know, did you ever race cars? I never go above the speed limit. You know, you ever smoke cigarettes? Like, I don't want to get lung cancer.
Atypical bad parenting tactic. Now we know.
Absolutely. You know, absolutely. And it's I don't know. It's.
I just think it's the quality. It's not the quantity of the life you live. It's not how long you lived. It's what you were able to accomplish in the time you had. If I died tomorrow, I'm in the best place I've ever been in my own mind. You know, obviously I haven't been able to provide. I'm 23. I haven't like set my family up for the rest of their life financially.
What does that even mean?
So that's the only downfall. Obviously my son's 4. I would hate to leave the world and not be able to guide him.
I want to watch
these
him.
are the things that I think about. But if I'm 50, my kid's 29 and he's doing great. He graduated, or he started a business or whatever he's doing. I don't even care what he does business wise. If he's happy. He's just happy. If I can sit down and have an honest conversation, he says, "Dad, I'm happy." Maybe he's traveling the world. Maybe he's a gypsy. Maybe he's a Fortune 500 CEO. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he's a dancer. Maybe he's gay. Maybe he's straight. I don't care. As long as he's happy, I did my job, and he's a good, valuable asset to the community. Then I did my job. Obviously you think about the significant other. I don't want to leave her behind, but I've talked to her about that. I would want you to continue to live your life. Like, live your life. People die. Don't act like it doesn't happen.
Everyone.
Yeah. But people die young. That's a variable. I've said this to Caitlin many times. I say, we can do the best job we think possible parenting, and our kid could fuck it all up. Because at a certain point, he's going to be independent, and he's going to surround himself with people that he wants to surround himself with. And there's nothing you can do. And that's back to the order versus the chaos. You have to be willing to understand and accept that there is a part of this when it comes to parenting that is out of your control, a big part of it. And, whether you have faith, whatever it is that makes you feel okay about it, it's coming. And I think, back to your point, I think it's the quality of your life, like what you are able to accomplish as a person, as a significant other, as a parent, that you should be weighing that on. And then, again, back to the point of when you die, you're dead. You're deceased. Who knows what happens after this? Don't walk around saying There's ideas, and you can find comfort in those ideas. But I'm reading *Sapiens* right now, and the most mind-boggling part is the depiction of fiction, and how the only reason that Homo sapiens, because there were different genuses and species of humans. When we all broke off from the ape, 2, 3, 4 million years ago, whatever the number is. Humans, occupy different areas for millions of years, and obviously they adapted differently. If you lived in cold areas, you adapted differently if you lived in warm areas. And as the Homo sapiens began to evolve, what was able to take us to become the apex predator was our ability to communicate and work in bigger groups. And how we did that was through fiction, through stories, through ideas. No other species could do that. They couldn't make shit up that way. So, and now you're seeing it when you really extrapolate it in 2018, and you say, like, cities, states, taxes, money. It's all fiction. It's all stories made up to allow us to communicate and work in a collective, and it's beautiful. There's no discounting it. Like, it's like when you talk about, like, religion. If you say, like, oh, it's all made up, it can offend people. But it doesn't take away from the value. Like,
right.
Whether it's made up or it's real, it doesn't matter. I say this about, like, tripping on a psychedelic, or like, if you have these visions and you transcend reality and you meet with the universal one, and you ate some mushrooms and you had this experience. You had the experience. What makes it real? Is it if I can pick it up and measure it and put it and touch it, does that make it real? But I mean, that experience happened in my mind either way, whether you consider it real or not real or imaginative. But let's remember that everything is imagination. Everything that's been built today was in someone's imagination. So for you to discount my crazy visuals during my transcendent psychedelic experience makes you a fool.
This message was brought to you by don't touch drugs, kids.
Yeah, drugs. What is that? A big blanket?
Right.
Again, it's back to your point of saying, like, I never drink alcohol. Like, transparency is how we evolve. There's no other way. You don't create, loyalty and honesty without transparency. Because, again, kids are smart. Kids know when you're lying. I've been called out. And again, I do my best to not even tell white lies to my kid. And it's a challenge. I do it sometimes. I don't even realize I'm conditioned to do it, wherever that came from. But again, like, my parenting tactic, whether anybody listening believes in it or not, is going to be full transparency. From the time that he can be conscious and ask me the questions, I will answer them.
It's funny. I look at, my daughter is my teacher. She is absolutely my mentor. I love the idea of how children see the world through a straw hole, like everything is like right there and they have everything figured out. Sometimes the world view, that wide lens, it's it might be too much for some people. Like it's too much to know everything, and that's one thing about ordinary life that I think is important, because if we actually knew, if we weren't consumed with all of our thoughts, all of our past, our present, our future, and we actually knew what was going on in the world, you want to see some fucking chaos, bro.
Well, I think that's what technology has done. I think there's a reason that increase in technology has led to increase in mental illness. You can't occupy that much space, so you have to understand how to disconnect. You know, we talk about getting in nature all the time. It's we talk about it for a reason. You got to get away from that, because if it bleeds, it leads. There's algorithms. Like, these big corporations are paying people millions of dollars to figure out why one thing works with news and why one thing doesn't. You know, fear sells. So if you're continually occupying your mind with, you know, Channel 4 news, good luck, man.
Well, my buddy, almost a friend of mine, we both know him. He's been playing around with some illicit drugs, but he's been using it as a way of, again, transcending his typical thought process. He finally has come to the conclusion or the realization that I can't keep going on like this. You know, I can't keep living like this. So it is a little bit more of a self-help modality. But even in his struggles, like, he's been kind of going to it very consistently. And now he's starting, because he's not necessarily seeing this. You know, when you first start doing something, again, it's easy to find another dimension. It's easy to find another world. It's easy to have fun with the imaginations. But then when they go nowhere, it starts to cause problems, starts to cause pain, it starts to cause blockages. And so, just like you said, like, even as we're just trying to advance the psyche and just trying to advance our worldview and our understanding that we're actually all the same, and you know, let's try to play our role in humankind and in our communities. Like, what is my role? What should I be doing? But even just being in nature, just going for a walk, just breathing, just enjoying a piece of pie is a very necessary part of maintaining a certain amount of balance, so you can maintain a certain amount of stability. I had mentioned my daughter earlier because, you know, her being my teacher, that transparency is difficult. She's 13 now, so obviously the topics are much different now. She's obviously started her hormonal stuff, and it was funny. She referred to it as Shark Week. And I'm just like, I'm your dad. Like, you know, I know. But it's, anyways, I just, you know, it's funny that we can, what was going to be a very, very traumatic situation 6 months ago, you know, and just helping her use that as almost like, well, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty as you go through the years. There's going to be a lot of changes and challenges. There's going to be a lot of extra things that are out inside the world that's going to influence you. And so just helping her, like, just understanding how the body develops and how the body works and how your mind will take something that's irrational and it will become very rational in a very short time. So developing a little stoicism in her has been amazing, because, you know, when you're having these conversations, you gotta take big topics, dumb them down to 6th grade level. And I actually feel like I learn. You know, I learn when I break it down to that level, because it is simple. Life is actually quite simple. Again, chaos is normal. You being delusional is accurate. Not having everything figured out is the way. And if you don't have everything that you're looking for, shapeshift your perspective. You know, there's 4 keys to life right there. There's 4 bullet points on how to live. So it's like I like that 6th grade level of looking at everything, because I don't think that the world should look any different at 44 than it does at 13.
Yeah, you're spot on with the ability to learn from, like, with my son being 4. I mean, something that I can't get over that stays in my brain all the time is that at 4 years old, I mean, he's been occupying this earth for like 1,200 plus days. And he knows what time is, but he doesn't have any understanding of it. And I just think about, like, at 23, I consistently, my days run on, like, I got to be somewhere. Like, you got to get out of here in a minute. We got clients coming in. Like, at 3:30, I got to be back to this. You know, you're constantly on this clock of time. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. I got to get to bed. I got to be up at 4:30. And you start developing anxiety. And meanwhile, my kid he wakes up when he's not tired. He eats when he's hungry. He takes a nap if he's tired. He goes to bed when he's tired. He's just like, and like literally, I'll be like, and I'll just like, I won't even think. I'll be like, 5 more minutes, man, as if he like knows what the hell that means. And then he'll negotiate, dude. He's gonna be a lawyer. He'll be like, how about just 2 more hours? You know, like, because he doesn't.
You're gonna have to get a little closer to 5 minutes.
Yeah, like he doesn't get it. He'll be like, it's gonna, like, I was like, it's gonna be a short car ride. He's like, so just like 56 hours. I just like pull numbers out of his ass because he understands like the time, like the framework in a sense, but he doesn't really understand like how it functions. So it's just so interesting because he just lives every second in that second.
It's beautiful.
No worry of what's going to come. And he doesn't like, he's on the way to school. He's not like thinking about like what he looks like and
what if scenarios.
Yeah. Like what if scenarios. It's so beautiful. And it's something that having the kids so young and not having anything figured out, man, like school doesn't teach you anything that's worth learning other than simple math and simple English and maybe the ability to manipulate your teachers to give you an extra day for that homework assignment. But I got thrusted into reality so hard, and I've just been bouncing off walls in the chaos. And at almost 20, I turned 24 in 12 days. I would say I've read hundreds of books because I reclused. That's how I was able to shapeshift into understanding the world, was through education and my own education and my own exploration. And I finally feel like I can spend the weekend with him, almost not quite there, but almost in his mind. I can put my phone down and I can just play Legos and just be there. And it's taken me, sadly 4 years, but gratefully most people I don't think ever get there. So I'm just excited to see where this can continue to go. Like,
yeah, we get to witness change through their eyes now, and it's like, I think we grow. Like you said, it's not linear. It's I grow through teaching. Like I have to help her navigate social media. I have to help her navigate the different types of girls and boys at school, because everybody's hormonal and some kids are jerks and some kids are too preppy and
some kids have shitty parents.
Yeah, but exactly. But it never. But again, those scales never actually change, even out in the real world. Like you still have to deal with certain types of people. So it's just awesome because it brings everything back down to the simple, brings the world back to looking through a straw hole. And it just, you want to just, let's just breathe today. She actually said that to me. We went out and got sushi the other day, and she goes, let's just leave our phones at home today. And I said, you are my master.
It's beautiful.
And she knew it. And like I said, I love.
There's no like, and obviously you're dealing with a much more conscious, intelligent entity at 13 in their own way. But even at 4, like you heard my son the other day talk about like the way he talks about death. Like he's just like he has no fear of it. He just and back to the point earlier in the podcast where we were like, where does this come from? Where does this like clinging come from? Because my 4-year-old who's hyper intelligent, like he's very intelligent. Compared to all the other kids that are his age that he's been around. He's very, very, very articulate, very like introspective at 4, aware, curious, and he'll just talk about death like it's just like he knows. He's just like, people die. It's what happens. He always talks about going to Chicago because there's a train. One time I went to Chicago and they drove me up there and he watched me go off on the train. And he always talks about it. And he's like, yeah, what if we were on the train and, the window was open and I jumped out? And I was like, you die. And he was like, oh, I don't want to die. Like, I won't jump out of the train.
All right, then
but he was just like, so like, it's just so innocent. It comes from this place of just complete ignorance. But maybe that's where we need to stay with that.
Absolutely.
Because you got to be humble to it because it's coming.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're clingy. Maybe that's why we're clingy to life, exactly for that reason.
And what I was going to get at is there's no ideology. And again, I'm not indoctrinated into anything. You could, again, I could offend people because they're easy to offend. Like I've never intended in my conversations to offend somebody when I talk about things like veganism and the fact that I hunt, or religion and Catholicism and the reasons that I don't believe in one specific doctrine. But at 4, he just doesn't have any. And my mom's very Catholic, and she'll take him to church sometimes. And I'm trying to explain to her that it's fine, it's innocent, But she just doesn't understand that like it can become damaging, and that's what we're seeing in today's culture, right? And when people get too ideologically based, that they forget that like we're a collective. They become too tribal, and then it's us. It's an us versus them.
Yes.
Mentality.
We are right. They are.
And
they
my
are
mom's
wrong.
my mom's the kindest heart. What religion does for her is phenomenal. But it's hilarious because we have a couple glasses of wine together, and all of a sudden she becomes the prophet who's going to transform me. And I have a couple glasses, and I become the guy that's going to debunk everything she says. And again, my intentions are never to do that, but I try to explain to her because she's like, "What is he going to believe?" And I'm like, "He's going to believe in becoming a good person. Like he's going to believe in discipline. He's going to believe in cultivating the individual so that he can become a part of the collective. That's salvation, right? Salvation isn't just like saying, do this, don't do this, and when you die, hopefully you'll go here and not there. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's crazy. That's a crazy idea. And it worked for a long time. But now it's obvious. If you want to get socio-political and objectify what's going on in the United States and other parts of the country, it's a disconnect, man. It's an us versus them mentality, and it's a lot of people that have nothing better to do than shit on other people, when what they should be doing is cleaning their house and cultivating their mind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think religion's very scary for that.
It's taboo,
again,
man.
Our big topic today was change, and why do we do it? It's very chaotic. It's very difficult. It doesn't seem normal. We just want everything to be like yesterday. But I think that sometimes is, we use, I think religion's a great place to stop off on, and I like to use religion because I think we can all relate to it on some level. So I think so again, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's a reframe. It's a reframe. I think you can plug anything else into that. But anyways, with that said, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of having a certain belief and then just stopping right there. And I think that's why I said earlier, that's why I was struggling almost a little bit on the mystic side of my life, is because I now accept the fact that everything will forever change. And if I exist on this world for 50 years or 150 years, that I will look at the world completely differently in the next 100 years, because I've accepted change. I've accepted chaos. And it's no longer difficult for me. Maybe in this moment right here, things could be difficult. But I understand that it's meant to be. The obstacle is the way. The truth comes from the chaos. The ordinary is death. The ordinary is fake. It's a false sense of reality. It's a false sense of. It's basically useless. It's an absolute useless frame of mind to not be any smarter today or any more objective today than you were yesterday. You are a dead person walking to me. But religion, I'm very fear based on this idea of, okay, I accept what you're saying, I've bought in, I'm done. That's a very scary concept to me. I'm just like, well, if you continue to seek, like maybe you could fucking levitate.
Well, and it's hard, man. I mean, that's, again, we can trace this back, and we got to wrap this up, but we could trace this back to the cold shower and the warm shower. I mean, if I took a poll just in our small community at the Inflow Wellness Academy, I can guarantee you that there probably isn't one person that wakes up and takes a cold shower. I bet you everybody takes a nice warm shower and then they go out with their day. Because it's comfortable, it's easy, it's normal. It's not normal. Like I literally, when I tell people that I take cold showers, they think I'm a freak. They think I'm crazy, and I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. It's water. It's just cold. Have you ever jumped in a cold pool or a cold lake? It's not that big of a deal.
When I went to that Super Bowl party, the host, and she was great. She made mention. She's like, "Oh, Ben, and the gluten-free crackers are right over here." It's like somebody scratched the needle across the record.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of look at me. I'm like, "Well, you should try them. They're delicious."
Yeah. They're
like they're just really yummy.
I also feel really good every
like you
day.
should see my poo in the morning. It's
Tim,
wonderful.
You were falling asleep at halftime.
Right.
Probably shouldn't have ate those pieces of bread. But yeah, my point is that it's difficult, and this is what I try to reframe for my mom. It's very easy just to like put everything in the hands of something else.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, and I get
God's
it.
hands.
And it can help. It can help tremendously, just like an antidepressant can help if you lost a loved one. But you can't stop there. You can't just start, now I'm on antidepressants now.
That's it.
I have anxiety. I take Xanax. I just have anxiety. It's just me. You're 27 years old. You can get over this.
You gonna do anything about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm on statins. My blood pressure.
And that's what's always interested me because again, I grew up Catholic. I went to catechism, and I just never understood it. It just seems like it takes the individual out, and it allows you to just. And I remember going to church, and there would be kids that were dicks, but they'd be at church more than me, and they would like act like they were like some sort of like higher being than I was, despite the fact that when they would get out of church, they'd be an asshole to all the other kids. So
it's not working.
Yeah, it was very, very. And with kids, it's you get the honesty. When you get adults, they're very good at repressing shit and just like showing up to church because they're supposed to, and doing this and that because they're supposed to, instead of like maybe just sitting down and saying maybe there's more. Maybe I should focus on cultivating the individual, and maybe that was a good stop off. Maybe religion transcended you into thinking that there's more.
Yeah, they say I don't go, but all mass is always the same. It's the same mass every day, and I'm like, well, do I have to go today then? I remember it.
Yeah, I don't like watching movies twice.
No, what's the point? I already know how it finishes.
Yeah, like people that are big movie snobs that will watch the same movie over and over again. Hey. That's all you. I never watch unless it's like a documentary that's really dense and I didn't get enough out of it. I'll never rewatch it. Like Caitlin will rewatch series of shows. Such an investment. I don't want to. I already know what happens. I'm just watching this. Like, there's nothing there. Like at least with a new show, I can enjoy the plot and the storyline and the mystery of what's going to happen next, the unknown, the change.
Well, I'm going to tell you, son. I'm going to tell you as your friend, and your coworker. Your soon-to-be wife and your son and your family are very lucky to have you, man. You've got your mind on a path, on a very wide open path that you're going to be a very good influence for people. You're going to leave a great mark in your life. You're going to leave a great mark wherever you decide to hang your professional hat, if you will. And I'm lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have you in my life, and I like these talks. I like these talks. I think this is a great subject. I think even when you're talking about relationships, I mean, just being it's the disorganization of organization, or being a certain amount comfortable with being disorganized and not having it figured out. I feel like that might be the way. I've said it many times. Sometimes I think homeless people have better perspective than we do. You know what I mean? It's like they don't suffer the way we suffer. It's cold.
It's a different kind of suffering.
Yeah.
We're more internal. They're probably a little more external. But I appreciate the kind words. But it's cool, man, because about a little over a year ago, I made the biggest. In 2017, I quit my comfort job where I was making way too much money than any kid ever needs, any single parent, and any 3-family home needs, and I was just disappointed with the way my employer was treating me. I was disappointed in the way my brain was cultivating in that environment. I was disappointed in the approach that we were taking towards training, and the approach that the demand that we put on making money. Obviously we got to make money. It's a business, but we were making money. But it was always about making more money, not about serving better. And I just up and quit. I just took my foot, put it in the chaos, and went with it.
No, you delve head first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That wasn't a toe, dude.
Yeah, and in 2017, man, I kind of started a business which we've now molded into like a collective business, which I couldn't be happier about. And I bought a house. I got engaged. I graduated from school. I made all these shapeshifts in one fucking year. And here I am. Here we are sitting and having these conversations, man. And it was funny because when we met, I came into that gym, man, and the first thing we started talking about was how we both love stoicism and read, and we just had this deep introspective conversation. I walked out of there. I was like, this is
where
it,
we're supposed
man.
to be.
This is crazy. I couldn't believe it, man.
Yeah.
Now and here we are having these conversations a year later, and we've created a lot, and we're just getting started. We didn't really talk about it, but we have some huge changes going on at this gym right now. Some very exciting and terrifying things, and
yes.
We don't really know what's going to happen, but we're gonna live our words. There's nothing else we can do. Our backs are in the corner, and we have to dive in and make the best of it, or we have to shapeshift and move elsewhere. But either way, we'll figure it out. I mean, again, I always tell people the one thing. The greatest skill is adaptability. and it's something that's built into our system. It's what we do. That's just what you do. And your suffering is often self-inflicted. The situation happened, and you're choosing to sit here and sulk and suffer is self-inflicted. Stop that. Realize it's done, it's over, and shapeshift and start taking advantage of your new situation. So I'm excited, man. I'm fearful. I'm excited. But
I'm all of it.
Yeah,
I want it to be like it was.
Yeah.
But I want change. It's chaotic.
I don't ever want it to be like it was.
I know.
I just don't. It's just. Monotony, man, is terrifying.
It's death.
It's terrifying to me now.
Yeah, because if I do get 90 years in this world and they all look exactly like today, I'm jumping.
Yeah, fuck. There will never be a stop-off point, man. It can't. It can't because that stop-off point is going to be just your death. You're just done for.
Isn't that what the openness to this is all about? Isn't that what these podcasts are all about? If you're willing to put these topics on your table and not figure it out, but just think about them. Think about your whys. Think about tipping points. Think about flow states. Think about change. I think I no longer have control. I no longer could go back to ordinary. I could no longer go back to predictable. I'd suffocate.
We're shaping these beliefs through this podcast. And again, you got anybody listening. These are our opinions at the end of the day, and we're just expressing the best things that we've figured out so far as a collective. You're 44. You've been on this earth a lot longer than I have. I'm 23. I've been on the earth a lot shorter, but I feel like in my years, like my circumstances have allowed me to understand things that I don't think most kids my age do. Right. And I've been wanting to share them. And through the 7 podcasts we've done, I've learned tremendously, not only about myself, about you, about what we can create in this moment where our phones are on silent and we're just here embracing the now.
I haven't even touched it.
I know. Okay, I didn't even have to call you on in the middle of the phone. Mine went off a couple times. I was like, I caught it in my eye, just the light up. I'll answer them later. It's not that important. But
well, we would love again. This is a podcast, but it's interactive. Some people have brought some of our topics into the gym and we've discussed them, but. We're appreciative of any audience. We're appreciative of any perspectives that we have on this, any ways that you can help us, and letting us know about any ways that we may have helped you.
Yeah, just continue to spread the love and cultivate the individual and embrace the chaos and take advantage of the order.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition. We'll guide you through supplementation. We'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.